Hey guys, welcome to Cactus Jerk. I want to make a video about Trichocereus scopulicola, Trichocereus scopulicola or scopulicolus, regardless. I mean, both names have been used. Scopulicolus is the older name. It's a Bolivian Trichocereus species collected by Friedrich Ritter. Described by Friedrich Ritter in like the 50s. Yeah, what can I say about it? It is a Bolivian version of Trichocereus pachanoi. It is probably related to Trichocereus bridgesi, but there are wild differences. So let me show you. This is Trichocereus bridgesi. Like, I mean, this is very different, okay? So I want to say that this is probably a justified correct species. Like, I've seen some authors putting it into Trichocereus pachanoi. I mean, I don't know. We'll see how the DNA tests and cladistic studies look like, but let me just say this one grows very far away from like the Peruvian and Ecuadorian species. This is Bolivian. This is a species that grows like in a very small area, and so far I tend to believe that this is a genuine correct species. So, but it is very similar to Trichocereus pachanoi. It is the Bolivian version of it in combination with Trichocereus bridgesi. Both of these species, I see them on the same level. Like Trichocereus bridgesi has a much wider distribution, but this kind of plant, I mean, it is very similar to pachanoi. So, yeah, and this is pachanoi, and yeah, I mean, it gets obvious there are longer spines. The spines on scopulicola are originally similarly long. Like young plants of scopulicola have such spines. They have very long spines. They often have like a much higher rib count than later. So this is, I mean, like 5 ribs. This one 5. Yeah, so 5 ribs on both. But they also have like 6, sometimes 7. But on the long run, like in the course of the lifespan of these plants, the rib count changes. Very young plants have a much higher rib count. So don't be surprised when you grow plants from seeds and they have high rib count. I mean, it's not a problem. Yeah, what else? The flowers look a bit different. Like when scopulicola produces flower buds, they are hairy in a whiter type of color. Like they have whitish hair and brown wool. Like the brown wool is on the base at the scales of the flowers, and the hairs, like you can, over here I have a fruit that's a different species. You can see it has long hair, brown hair, and scopulicola also has like this brownish wool below it. So yeah, whitish hair and brownish wool. Flower buds are very white. Later on, it is stained by the sun, but that's normal. Like all flowers are stained by the sun if they are exposed to it. Okay, yeah. When you take your fingernail and put it over scopulicola's skin, you feel a grainy texture. That's something that you do not have on pachanoi. It feels very like you don't have these. It's almost like braille, like this language for blind people. This feels completely even. And over here, it feels like, I don't know, it's a little bit rougher. And no, I don't want to do that on this one because it can damage the skin. Yeah, this one's very even too. So if you are unsure about a ID, put your fingers around it, Most Peruvian species are not very rough. They feel very, like, I don't know, it feels on scopulicola you can feel these little grainy textures. Alright, what else? Not much else. Well, like, generally speaking, the spines on scopulicola on older plants are absent, like there aren't any. You can see, like, especially when it's an older plant, so at the bottom you can always see these little remnants of spines, but it's not comparable to what you see on Pachanoi, for example. This is Pachanoi, this is not Peruvianus. There are spines over here. This is Pachanoi, little spines over here. Let's look at them from the top. And now check out scopulicola, how convex and like bloated it looks. See? Scopulicola is very bloated, and you don't see that on Peruvian species. Like, check this out. I mean, it looks very, like, I don't know the words. English isn't my main language, so give me a break, but you know what I mean, right? This isn't like convex and bloated. Yeah, alright. I mean, this should be enough to get you started. There are many things, like there are forms of Trichocereus scopulicola like Super Pedro and Trichocereus cordobensis. Don't ask me how they came up with that name. It's just like, I mean, some might be hybrids with scopulicola, some might be like a population, another population of scopulicola, but you can still see that it's the same species. I mean, this is a plant that's very characteristic. The rib count on older plants is very small, like lower rib count than you see on most other Trichocereus species. Like, for example, this is Pachanoi and it's a blue one. Like, you can see it has very short spines, so like this isn't comparable to the spines that you see on the Peruvianus. And this one has 7 ribs. So this one 5, this one 5. So the rib count can give you a bit of help here and there. But yeah, I feel like you should be able to recognize a Trichocereus scopulicola simply because it's like a very beautiful and characteristic plant. The areoles are a little bit like sunken in. You can see they are tiny. You can, when you go over them, you feel the spines. There are spines, but they are so tiny that they are barely like visible. And yeah, and you can look here how much more visible these areoles are. And with these V notches, these V notches, the V notches are very obvious on Pachanoi and not so much on scopulicola. Don't get me wrong, scopulicola can get V notches. This is all a question of size and conditions. Like, when you grow these plants in certain conditions, certain traits are much more dominant. Like, they are very variable. So there, I don't think you should talk in absolutes here. If you look very closely, you can see the V notches on scopulicola, but they are not as dominant as you see them, for example here, Macrogonus or Peruvianus, or here, Bridgesi, Pachanoi, no matter what you call them. Most have V notches, but scopulicola is pretty, like, the bloated look and the sunken in areoles just overshadow like the V notches. Alright guys, I hope this video helps you a bit. I'm going to sleep now. It's like Saturday, and it's like when you drank too much, then you go to bed. That's the rule where I come from. So I'm going home. Alright, bye.